Hey everybody, welcome to the Xweather QA. We're really excited to have you guys here. We're trying to make a series of these. We're starting off with the data API, and then we're going to move through our other products, Maps, Maps.gl, and then take it wherever we see fit and wherever you guys keep having questions about. So thank you for joining us. I'm Seth Miller. I'm the Backend Team Lead. My team gets to do all sorts of fun stuff with data ingestion up through the APIs and distribution. And this is boss man Lee Huffman. He's my boss and heads up the development here. He's our CTO.
Yeah, thanks, Seth. Yeah, and definitely excited to talk about the API. It's one of my favorite aspects here. But first, we have a few announcements to walk through. Xweather is now Xweather. You know, this is, we were acquired by Vizsla a couple years ago. And, it's been a great journey. We've been able to grow our team, and we've been able to integrate a lot of new data sets that Vizsla offers into our platform. But as of last week, we have sunset the Xweather brand, and we are Vizsla Xweather. So right now, if you go to xweather.com, that will redirect you to xweather.com. And again, I'm going to say it now. I'm probably going to say Eris API because it's been that for many years now, and it just changed over the past week. So I'm sure everyone here is going to be counting how many times I say Eris API. All right, so recent API updates. You know, as I mentioned, we've been able to integrate a lot of new data sets within our platform. So the first one I want to just chat about is road weather. So with road weather, this is where you can query our API with a single point or a string of points along a transportation route and gather information about the road surface. So it could be the surface conditions. Is it snowy? Is it wet? Is it icy? It could be the surface temperature, but then also it's other risk profiles. So it could be the probability of aquaplaning or the probability of truck rollover.
Yeah, and we had a great opportunity to have a booth at the Consumer Electronics Show this year in Las Vegas. It was really neat to meet with a bunch of partners, a bunch of other folks in the industry, specifically in the automotive space, especially with the road weather that we have out and available to use now. It was really neat to see all the different use cases that everyone's coming up with for that data. And it was really cool to see actually how different it is from our atmospheric data set. Just here in Minneapolis a few days ago, it was snowing outside, so our radar showed snow. You know, it was a cooler temperature, but since it had been sunny and we had warmer weather earlier, that snow was falling, but it wasn't accumulating on the road. It was just showing that the roads were wet, and we could see right outside our window that, yeah, the roads were just wet and it's not building up snow. But boy, that really gets important and hits home the other way when maybe the road is too cold and it's starting to rain. Those turn into icing conditions and other things that road weather data set can help with. So yeah, really cool data set that Vizsla has been able to bring to market.
Yeah, it is a good data set too, and it offers a nowcast component that is in 15-minute intervals out the next 2 hours, and it updates every 15 minutes. And then there's an hourly component going out the next 24 hours. So definitely if you're planning any travel over the next 24 hours, that data is available. And it's also available within the API and both of our within our Maps.gl platform as well. Another data set is our maritime data set. So this is where we're adding, you can obtain the wave heights and periods and the swell heights and periods, the ocean currents, as well as the sea surface temperatures. And this is a global data set. It's available hourly out the next 15 days. And you can access that data via the API and our raster maps API and the Maps.gl API. And then, as part of Vizsla, we've been able to expand and enhance our air quality. So within the API, we've had air quality for several years, but it's been observation-based only. So if there was a nearby observation, we could answer that question. But now, Vizsla, they run their own internal model. It updates every hour. It's global, and it's in a 5-kilometer resolution, which is a fairly high resolution for air quality. And with that, you can get the air quality index as well as the pollutants that make up that index value.
Yeah, and some updates on the engineering side. Forecasts and condition speed improvements have come out. That's a tough problem just because it's so much data, global weather data that's hourly, that's back till 10 years, Yeah, 2011. Oh my gosh, it's more than a decade. Yeah, that data is just yeah, it's a lot of freaking data. So yeah, a lot of engineering challenges in onlining and keeping that data so hot and making it quick to query. But those updates have launched and are already being used in some ML use cases from customers, which is great to see.
Yeah, it's been good. There's a lot of cycles put into that, but then the feedback that we've been getting, our clients are excited about that improvement, especially with the archive.
Yeah.
So while we're primarily chatting about the API today, we have received questions related to some of our other products. So we wanted to highlight some of the notable updates we've had with those. You know, I think I get asked this almost every few days, but what's the status of our iOS and Android SDKs for Maps.gl? Well, you know, the iOS SDK is in beta. Beta 3 was just recently released. And if you go to the Xweather GitHub, you can download the demonstration app and start testing out and developing with that today. As often occurs, though, the Android's running a little bit behind iOS, and it's due to be released in June.
Yeah, we'd love your feedback on that stuff. That's why we put out these betas. If you have a use case for it and you want to start using it, please, yeah, give it a shot. Let us know. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. We're building products for you. So yeah, please let us know some of that feedback.
And then along with that, because this is a change that we made based on that feedback actually, is that within Maps.gl JavaScript SDK, we've made a lot of improvements regarding smooth animation between past, present, and future. Previously, you always had to have, you could do the past and present together, or you could do present and future together. Now you can have a smooth animation between all three time frames. And then I also want to bring up, we launched demos.xweather.com over the past few months, and a lot of the things that we're talking about today are in our future sessions. You can see demonstrated there, whether it's Maps.gl, you know, raster maps, or even the API accesses are being integrated within that too. So definitely check out demos.xweather.com. Again, some upcoming releases that we have. Again, you know, we mentioned iOS, the beta's out now, and then with Android, we're going to have release in June for that. Another request that we've been receiving a lot is to be able to have tech support within the JavaScript Maps.gl library. So that is on the way. So you'll be able to display your temperatures, your wind speeds, or any of the data elements there for you know, cities across the globe, or if you have specific assets that you want to display that information for, you'll have that option as well. And then alerts. You know, we have alerts now for US, Canada, and Europe. Well, we're expanding to Australia, and that's going to launch in May. And then we're going to also be adding additional countries that you'll see come over during the summer months.
Yeah, and we have some lightning improvements as well. We're improving the product latency. So that's what we call when you see the strike to the time you're able to get it within our data from our data products. That has a 40% reduction in that latency. We're really excited about that. The Lightning team's been hard at work making sure that that data is properly deduplicated and the strike is over. We have all the information about a single, you know, strike or pulse in the cloud-to-cloud data as well. So we're really excited about that to improve that time.
And that release actually comes out next week, right?
Yeah. Yep. We have that scheduled. And yeah, that reminds me, subscribe to status.xweather.com. That's our status page. We post all of our maintenance windows there. We try really, really hard to not break anything or have any interruptions, but it is a good way to even keep up on change logs too, because we'll post whenever we have updates and we make releases there.
Yeah, definitely. Status.xweather.com. All right. Now it's time for your questions.
Awesome. Hey guys, my name's Holly. I'm the marketing manager for our weather API and mapping products. I'll be here off screen feeding Lee and Seth the questions that you've all sent in. Don't forget that if you haven't had time to send in a question, or if you couldn't think of one before, but you come up with one during the session, feel free to pop it in the Q&A chat box. And Lee and Seth will answer those additional questions at the end, time permitting. Don't worry, anything that we don't get to, we will send an answer to in a follow-up email, and maybe we'll do a little bit of a video recording as well. All right, so our first question, will anything be changing for existing Eris API users? What are the specifics and what's the timeline?
Right, so it's a great question, you know, especially with the, you know, retiring the Eris Weather brand over the past week. So you shouldn't see any significant changes at all. If you are going to the Xweather website, you'll be redirected to the Xweather website. So if you're looking for documentation or using our wizards or some of the other resources, they should redirect to those new, the equivalent resources on xweather.com. Now, also, it's been asked, because we have the arisapi.com domain that you use to make the queries, whether it's our API or mapping platform, that domain will continue to work. It's been in use for many years, so we can't just change that. But we do have new domains with the Xweather, as part of the Xweather domain family. So you can use data.api.xweather.com, but again, the arisapi one will continue to work.
Awesome, thanks, Lee. We did receive a couple of questions on mapping. Could you tell us a little bit about advanced branding?
Okay. So, yeah, when it comes to branding, there's a couple different areas that you can look at. So we're going to just chat about Maps.gl first. So Maps.gl is very unique in that it's all rendered client side. So with that, you have that capability to do some fairly customized branding to make those maps meet your company's look and feel. So that could be changing the color ramps, or maybe I want to display just the winds from 20 to 50 kilometers per hour, or other integrations. So you can definitely do that. With raster maps, it's a little bit harder to do that because, again, we're creating those server side, so you can't easily change those color ramps. So that's definitely a benefit to Maps.gl. Now, another area, too, when it comes to branding would be I want to display my logo on the map. So the easiest way that we recommend is just use our JavaScript SDKs for that, whether it's the Maps.gl SDK or the JS SDK. And with those SDKs, often you can just add it a logo, and it's as simple as utilizing CSS to display that logo on top of the map.
Next question, little bit of a both mapping and API. Will we be able to focus on any specific area to see current weather conditions there with details?
Gotcha. Yeah, so when it comes to our mapping services, you do have that capability. And we can do a quick little demo stepping through our wizards here. So, okay. All right, so again, on Xweather, if you visit developer.xweather.com/wizards, you can visualize these as well. But if we start with the map wizard, you can choose different types of maps, but I'm just going to choose a single image map. And you can sort of see we're based out of Minneapolis here, so the map is centered on Minneapolis at the moment. But I can come in and you can change that, and you can also change that zoom level to zoom out or zoom in. So you do have that capability there to choose a specific region. And then just stepping through this wizard, I can come in and choose, hey, a map that I want. So I like the darker map, so I'm going to choose a dark base map. Okay. And then I can come in and choose one or more different layers that I want to have display on the map. I'm just going to choose the satellite geocolor for now. Okay. And then I get next. And then I'm just going to come in and choose just the standard city names on the map. So now, lastly, if I come in and hit continue once more, you'll see that the wizard gives you a couple options. You may want to have display an animation. So it gives you some JavaScript code. Or you can get a static URL as well. So that way, if it's just an image tag that you can add to your page. So that's one way that you can have that regional view with the layers that you're looking for. Now, if you're utilizing the API, I'm just going to jump back here to the wizards again. If we look here to the API wizard, and just choose the conditions. So that's conditions endpoint is a way that our API can provide you high resolution information for any latitude, longitude globally. So if you just come over here and choose location, and then you can change this location here, the data will show up and you can see an example of the output. And then you can even choose parameters and adjust the from and to. So if you want the data for 5 years ago or a decade ago, it is available for you.
Is level 2 radar on the roadmap for Maps.gl?
And yes, this is definitely something that we're looking at. I have another example for you. This isn't available to the public yet, but it's something that our teams have been testing internally. So I'm just going to refresh this here real quick. Okay. And then you can sort of see we're showing our standard radar composite, but if we zoom in, we can see the individual radar stations. And then I'm just going to come over here and select one of these. And for this internal demo that we have, where we're looking at this, it's actually fetching and processing that level 2 data on the fly. But now you can sort of see we have pulled in that level 2 data for that station. And we can zoom in and see that in full quality versus a composite.
I'm glad there's actually weather today. Whenever we do like show things off, it seems like there's, oh, by the way, it's super boring across the US, but Northeast, thanks for coming through for us. There's actually some stuff going on.
The next question that we got, when should I use batch requests?
All right, so that's a great question that we get a lot. The batch request is definitely a convenience endpoint for you. So you could, query the endpoint for individually for all the items that you need. But with the batch request, we utilize it both within our JavaScript SDKs and our mobile SDKs. And one reason is especially in mobile environment, making a single request to fetch all the data is very useful. So the first use case that I like to talk about is if you need to get the current conditions and the forecasts and the advisories or alerts for an individual location, you can just pass up that latitude, longitude, or city, comma, state, along with any the items that you need, and it can just return all of those to you in a single request. Another use case too is maybe for you need to get like a lot of our endpoints, like the conditions endpoint, you can fetch 1 day of data at a time. So if you need to fetch a month worth of data, maybe to display it on the calendar, that's another use case for batch.
Awesome. Next question, and I promise this one wasn't a plant. When we are working with clients that want to use their own weather service, what can I tell them about you and why choose you over them?
Ooh.
That is a fun one.
That is a good question. Yeah. So we see ourselves as the premium business and scientific players in the market versus a lot of these other companies that are out there that are media companies looking for ad revenue. Those are media companies at their core. We're an environment company. We're not necessarily only the should I wear a jacket today, but we're the should I launch my rocket today. We provide these insights beyond just kind of what's the nearest, what's happening at the nearest airport. Although even though, we probably made those stations at Vizsla, which is pretty cool. But we help customers make valuable decisions across all industries using our data and how we interpolate, how we mix, how we forecast, all of that data together. So a lot of those competitors as well that are in the market use our data. We are the largest, most accurate Lightning data providers in the world. So not only are we a partner for data, but since Vizsla is that sensor company, we can be a partner throughout life cycle and growth. So if you need really hyper-local, crazy accurate readings for whatever you're doing, whether it's your building, HVAC, or your farm field, whatever, all sorts of cool stuff. Vizsla is that sensor company that's been making sensors for 80-something years. And those incorporate into our platforms and really help with the full customer growth, I guess.
Good answer.
Thanks.
Okay. We have trialed and subscribed to Xweather's API and maps. In Canada, the radar displays different returns, where other services are similar. Xweather's is very different. We've noted some other issues, including major precipitation swings. Why is this the case for both?
Yeah. So that's a tough question without actually seeing the images as they saw them when they were having this issue. We do pull radar from the official radar from Environment Canada directly. So it should look very similar to what Environment Canada is offering. But definitely if you continue to have issues, please reach out to support and we can discuss that further.
Yeah, Canada's been doing a lot of upgrades to their radar stations, which is great. They had some kind of legacy aging infrastructure, but as they were doing that, they were taking stations on and off. But they're wrapping that up or have wrapped that up now. I'd have to double check with my team. But yeah, that is certainly something that's played into some difficulties in Canada, but now the data should be much, much better. So yeah, please reach out and let us know if you've noticed something.
Could you speak to some of the capabilities of hailstorm prediction of the API based in the USA?
There's been a lot of hail questions lately.
Yeah, lots of hail.
Severe season's coming online.
That's good.
Yeah, with hail is definitely an interesting problem, and within the API, we do have some areas that you can obtain hail information. So start with storm cells. So with storm cells, this is available within the US, and it's radar-based information. With that, if a storm cell potentially has hail, there'll be the probability of hail, and then also the probability if it's going to be severe hail, which is, I believe that's if it's going to be more than an inch in diameter, inch and a half.
I think so. Yep.
Yeah, and then it'll also include the estimated hail size as well. And then storm cells will also include a forecast if that storm is moving forward. So that's available. Another endpoint I'd look at would be the threats endpoint. So I consider this a level above the storm cells because the threats endpoint is looking at data from our lightning threats, as well as storm cells and other information. And it's sort of combining all that data. And it's only going to look at the items that are going to affect the location that you requested for. And with that, so maybe there's a 3 or 4 storm cells headed toward your location, but another 10 are moving in a different direction or are already passed. So with that, it's going to provide, here's how long, before these storms arrive, and then it's going to provide a minimum, maximum, average hail size for you. But then also, storm reports is another good one. So after the hail's passed, you can utilize it as where did hail actually fall. So.
Yeah, and we're excited about some new products that we're bringing up to and doing some research with, specifically targeting the insurance industry, where they want to know very specifically, an all but guarantee that hail fell here, but also trying to hit the use case of warning as well, so people can either take shelter or move things out of the way, where that you kind of paint a larger swath of, hey, hail might happen here, but then recognizing that other industries want a more confident approach that something happened here. So yeah, we're really investigating both of those use cases, and we were literally talking about it this morning, which is great. Yeah.
All right, next question. For the lightning threats API response, the thunderstorm severity Boolean value, false or true, appears to break JSON parsing. Is this the case?
We have not seen that issue. That's a common endpoint, so that's something that we would think would have popped up. Certainly not JSON parsing, but I guess it depends on if you're using a statically typed language and you're maybe expecting a type or something. I'm not quite sure. But if you could elaborate on that question and provide examples to us, our support would be happy to help. And then, if they can't, they forward it on to us. So yeah, by all means, please reach out.
What type of alerts can I receive with the API or access with the API?
Yeah. So with the Eris API, with the API. All right. Yeah. So with alerts, we offer the government issued alerts. So within the US, that's going to be the National Weather Service. Within Canada, it's going to be from Environment Canada. And then within Europe, it's going to be from each country's issued alerts, but we pull those in via Media Alarm. And then, as mentioned, we're going to be adding in May the Australian alerts. And then those come from what we nickname OSBOM, but it's Australia Bureau of Meteorology. So those will be available too. And within the API, you can query just with a city name or a latitude, longitude, and it'll return the alerts that are available to you. And then our mapping platforms also offer alert information as well.
And my team's been working hard on alerts. There's some cool updates coming that we're really excited about.
Awesome. Can we download history from the API?
Yeah, we have a rich history in the API. A lot like we mentioned earlier in this session. Our conditions endpoint goes back to 2011. Great for use cases in machine learning, just citing whatever you need to do with that. And yeah, we've had a lot of improvements with that data as well, with the speed of access. And we're excited about having that archive. If you have some other use cases or something as well, or are looking for different data sets, please let us know what you're thinking. But yeah, the archive is a fun product.
All right. Where do you receive your data from?
Oh, that's what my team gets to work on a lot. Lots of sources of all varying qualities, some more scientific, we'll say, some that are a little better at distribution than some of the scientists, not to pick on the scientists. But yeah, so our forecasts come from the National Weather Service in the US, but we also purchase data from the ECMWF. And then at Vizela, we run our own forecast models as well that's taking in all sorts of crazy different observations. We have public networks, private networks. Then we also have our own proprietary Lightning network that's available through our APIs and mapping platforms as well. But that's a global network that we control. But yeah, Vizela is an environmental sensor company, so we have access to all sorts of really cool data, connected vehicles, like road weather stations, all sorts of really neat stuff. So yeah, it's a very diverse mix of data sources that all flow into the system that then we provide to hopefully make those insights to make decisions based out of. But then also we have one sensor on Mars, the Perseverance rover. Because we're that scientific class instrumentation company, we're on the Mars rover, which is fun.
So there's no Mars endpoint.
We don't have we don't have a Mars endpoint yet. I don't know how you do lat longs on Mars. Maybe it's the same. Prefix it within Mars. Someone's figured this out. Maybe someday, right? Maybe someday. Once we're living there, then we'll have to know.
I certainly hope so. Okay. Will you offer non-English forecasts?
Right. So the API today, it only provides the weather phrases within English, but we also provide a coded output. So the conditions, forecasts, and observation endpoints, those are the ones that are really providing those weather phrases. It provides a coded output that most of our clients just utilize to map to a localized language. That said, we do have it on our short-term roadmap that we're going to be adding language support or expanding it. So currently our alerts endpoints, if an alert is issued in a different language, you can provide a language header and you'll get that. A good example is going to be within Canada. They issue all their alerts both in English and French. So if you provide the header request in the French language, then you're going to get the French version of that alert. So we're going to follow a similar concept with the conditions, forecasts, and observations. If you provide that header, you'll be able to get a localized language of the weather phrases.
And that's coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Great. This is the second to last of the questions that were sent in before the webinar, so you guys are doing great as far as time goes. Just a reminder to everybody, get your questions in. Looks like we'll have a little bit of time at the end, I think, so that's great. This question is the Weather API suitable for moving platforms where the location is not constant? For example, can it be integrated into ship systems? And is the subscription data global or fixed to a certain area?
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely. Our API subscriptions are global. So you can query, we mentioned the conditions and forecast endpoints, you can query globally for any latitude, longitude. And some of our highest volume clients are going to be mobile clients, so it may be a mobile application, which is, they're constantly moving and changing. So, or it may be in a vehicle. So definitely great for, those type of use cases there. And then also, again, we do strive to make our endpoints as global first whenever possible. So, if you query our forecast or conditions, maritime, air quality, thanks to Vizela's integration of their new air quality forecasts, and other global data sets that we have, again, any latitude, longitude globally.
Yeah, a friend of mine's actually doing a sailing race from LA to Hawaii. Takes him 10 days, super far. But he was like, oh, do you guys have this data? I was like, yeah, man, we got like good marine stuff. We have winds. Yeah, it's a sailboat race. And I don't know, I told him to hit us up.
All right, and the last one is actually right up your alley, Lee. Are you guys doing or planning on doing anything with generative AI?
What's generative AI? No, of course, we're definitely looking at generative AI. I mean, what company is not?
Yeah, does our stock price like go up if we talk about generative AI for a little bit?
Yeah, no, we're, different areas within Vizela, we're looking at generative AI and how we can utilize that. Earlier we mentioned demos.xweather.com. If you just jump there now, you can see some examples of how we're testing out the technology and see how we can use that. And I can show a quick little demo here. Okay. So again, this is just our transportation and logistics demo, but if I were to come here and click on the map, on the left-hand side, you're going to see some impacts on how the road weather and atmospheric weather could affect trucking or shipping via trucks. And you'll see that we have a generative AI response here as well that's on the fly. Also, if you're checking out, we have some other demos. Check out the road weather and the turn-by-turn instructions. You'll get a summary of the weather along a route. And then also, if you scroll down, we have a newer example of testing generative AI, where you can actually chat with a weather station from across the globe and ask it, find out information about the station itself. Or if you're looking to, ask it, hey, how much rain have we received over the past 6 months? It can answer that for you.
I like that icon. That's a good little icon for a little station robot. They look so happy to answer your questions about your weather stations.
Definitely.
But yeah, it's been a really cool opportunity to work with the generative AI. It's providing, because we had many years ago, we were trying to do this programmatically of how do we explain to people what's happening in a really, concise way, but also a way that makes sense. And that's really hard because we're, trying to not bury the lead and say like, well, there's a tornado coming. Like that's important. Say that. But also like, oh, we want to fit all these other things in. And yeah, Gen AI has been a really great tool to really bring weather together and make it a nice, concise update for people that, non-weather nerds can understand, which is what we're here for.
Yeah, it's been one of the huge benefits is just how can we communicate weather better to everyone.
Awesome.
It helps that it's a really fun subject, and I can confirm that the weather station chat bots are really fun. We do have a couple of questions that came in during the session. So the first one is from Omar. Is there a limitation to the region or location of request for APIs, and does it depend on the endpoint? What if I wanted to pull data for an entire state through one of the API endpoints? What does that look like?
Right. Yeah, so it's going to depend on the endpoint. For instance, some of our endpoints, you'll notice that they support what we call a within query. So you can pass a bounding box, a circle with a radius, or you can pass in a polygon. And that can provide data, especially if it's like a point type data, like weather observations. You have that capability to pull in all the individual observations within a state, if you would. When it comes to something like a forecast, you can query any latitude, longitude within a state or conditions, but you're going to have to query those points individually.
Yeah, just the nature of that data being so high resolution, and we're calculating and bringing things in on the fly for when you query that data. It really depends on the areas that you're interested in. And yeah, in order to fetch like an entire state or something, yeah, it kind of doesn't make a ton of sense to just grab that in a sense. So if you wanted to create a grid or something yourself and just query out all the points along the grid to bring those in, that's a lot similar to that machine learning use case. But yeah, it makes sense for some data endpoints like Lee said, and a little less so for other ones.
I would also say look at our route endpoint too, especially if it's like a transportation route, or it can just be any type of route, but you can pass in a GeoJSON line string to the API, and it can provide that data for all the points along that route as well.
Awesome. And then this one is from Ken. I think this may kind of go back to the multi-language support, but since you offer worldwide forecast data based on lat long, when are you adding multilingual support via language equals ISO-lang on the query to the API? Note that Visual Crossing, Open Weather Map, and TWC APIs already offer this option.
Yeah. So that's just very similar to the previous question that we had. So you can actually pass that language header for our advisories endpoint today, and then or you can. There's actually a parameter. I think it's just lang equals, and then you can pass that in the query string if you prefer. So that's going to be coming out in the next few months for the forecasts, conditions, and observations. Those weather strings.
Awesome. Then we did get another one from Ken, and I think I can probably take this one. As an aside, are you concerned that Xweather may have umbrage by Elon Musk's X brand and bring legal action against the name?
I didn't think of that till now.
I don't know if we're going to get in trouble for talking about this. The answer is no. We were actually here first, so I think we're okay. Very different companies, very different products, and yeah, Xweather just, we've been here for a couple years now, and X is relatively new, but yeah, good stuff.
And we still call it Twitter.
We do still call it Twitter internally.
We're just hard to change names. We call it Twitter, and we call our API XWeather. So.
And Ryan, I loved your response to Ken. Elon saw your logo and heard you mention Mars. He wants to buy you now. The last question that we've received in the chat box is, we do a lot of energy work. This one is from Wayne, by the way. We do a lot of energy work and are interested in downloading weather history in terms of enthalpy at 15 meters or minimum 1 hour interval, or sorry, 15 minutes or minimum 1 hour interval. Is that available with your platform?
Right. Yeah, so with the conditions endpoint, you could definitely fetch data. So you can do sub-hourly as well. So you can fetch the data in minutely intervals, or 15 or 10 minute or 5. So that is available. You could either, if it's a large area or a lot of locations that you're looking for, you could script out to query that data from our API. But then also I would reach out to our account team too, because they have some tools that can assist with that, exporting that type of data.
Yeah, and we have an entire energy division at XWeather as well that's really, their bread and butter is really forecasting these really specific locations for wind, for solar, that type of stuff. So if you guys have a use case for that, and it's something that you think we could work together, partner with, but please reach out, because it's a really interesting space, certainly one that we're interested in as well, and we might have some products that line up there. So that'd be great.
All right. One more just in from Ken. Will you still offer free API keys to data submitters to pwsweather.com?
Yeah, right now we don't have any plans to change that in the short term that I know of. So yeah, that's still available. You can still sign up today as a PWS contributor. Way
to participate, Ken. Love it.
And then another one from Wayne. How far back does the history go? I'm assuming that's for all weather data.
Yeah. Currently, we go back to 2011, but we actually have some items in the works to go back further than that. But the majority of our clients, that more than covers their needs. But
yeah, and it depends on the data source too. I think earthquakes goes back to like 1500.
Yeah.
Or there was something ridiculous where, like, I don't know, some guy wrote down like the earth wiggled today. I don't know how accurate the latitude and longitude is on that, but yeah, it definitely depends on the data set. But yeah, if you're interested in something like we were mentioning earlier too, please let us know. But yeah, the core conditions data set goes back to 2011.
How far back does tropical cyclones go? That's
early 1900s.
1900s.
Oh yeah, that's another one that goes back really far, doesn't it?
I think in the West Pacific, it's going to be the 1940s, but in the Atlantic, it's going to be early 1900s.
Yeah, we were beefing up that data set when we were re-importing it and recalibrating everything and all that. And I think we plotted them all at once, which was kind of cool. And there's like line. Not a lot in Minnesota though. That was nice.
All right. That was all of the questions
awesome.
that we've received. If you've got additional questions, you've still got a couple minutes to pop some in. All right. We got one from Ryan. For batch requests, can you mix historical data on specific data points? For example, go back 1 week for temperature, but get current humidity.
Yes. So with batch requests, you can... the examples I gave were just fetching the data pretty much right now, current conditions. But yes, you can, with each query within a batch request, you can provide your own set of parameters. So, that's what you would actually do if you were wanting to get the calendar view, actually. You would, with each, you would provide a from period or a for period for each one of those dates that you're looking for.
Yeah, the batch requests are really neat because it is just... here's the list of requests you would make one by one, and you can just bundle that up into one request. It's very similar to like if you're to do it in JavaScript with, promises or whatever asynchronous language querying you want to do. You could take, a bunch of those and make a bunch of separate HTTP requests and then wait for them to come back. The batch request just allows you to do that, send it out once, get back the big old chunk at once. So it's a little easier to coordinate a lot of those things kind of coming and going. But yeah, it's really flexible because it is just individual requests, so you can kind of go all over wherever you want.
All right. This question is from Rebecca. What are the benefits to using conditions over the forecast or observations endpoint and vice versa?
Good question.
Yeah, it is. It's that was the observations endpoint was one of, and the forecast endpoints were some of our first endpoints within our API. And with observations, the one thing with that is that you are limited to where observation stations are. So if you're not near an observation station, then you can't provide a result. And so that was one reason why we spent a lot of time on the conditions endpoint, making it a global endpoint so you can query that for any latitude, longitude. And also they both had the same time frame. They both have data available going back to 2011. So definitely if you're looking for that. Additionally, with observation stations, you're limited to what that station provides. So many stations may only provide temperatures and humidity, whereas with conditions, you're going to always get all the attributes for any at any time frame throughout the globe that you query. And then forecast. So you can get forecasts from the conditions endpoint. And one of the cool things about that is if you're looking at the short-term forecast, the conditions endpoint, it does pull in a lot of data from a lot of our data sets. So it's going to pull in radar information. It's going to pull in satellite information. It's going to be pulling in precipitation information, mesoscale analysis information, and forecast information. It's going to combine all that, and then it's going to also integrate ground truth from those observations and use that to help improve that output. So if you do a short-term forecast, you're going to have a biased and improved short-term forecast over time that you wouldn't get with just the forecast endpoint. That said, one item that the forecast endpoint can provide you that the conditions doesn't is that it does allow you to do a 15-day request with a single query, whereas the conditions endpoint is limited to a single day per query.
Yeah, and I guess just overall, we've been encouraging customers to move to the conditions side of things versus observations, just because it is that all-encompassing answer all the time. It can depend on the use case. So if you really want the station data or if you want those specific points, the observations are still great for that. But for most users, that conditions endpoint is the answer.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, I think we've got time for one more question, and we just got one in from Ziad. How does the accuracy of the lightning strike data vary geographically? And in which region is it the most accurate, and in which is it the least accurate?
Good question. Yeah, in the U.S., it's the most accurate. We have a network that's across the U.S., NLDN, I believe it's called. Yep. So around the U.S., like I said, it's more accurate than the rest of the world, but that global data set is also very accurate. So that's something with our Lightning analytics. We actually provide the error ellipses. So that will show kind of where the confidence is of that strike. So if that's something you're really interested in and you're looking for that, really accurate, more scientific use case, I guess, that add-on to the API is probably for you. So yeah, reach out, let us know kind of your use case or whatever. We can get you set with something like that.
Awesome. We are at time, so I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. So thanks everybody for tuning in. I want to give a huge shout out to Kasha Fahy. She is our marketing technologist and has made this entire production possible. We're in a podcast studio and it's phenomenal. So keep your eyes open for a recording. It's going to be probably a little higher quality than what you saw here on Teams. And that'll be coming within the next few days here. We'll include some links to the resources that Lee and Seth have mentioned also. And then also keep your eyes open for details on our next developer Q&A. That one will focus on raster maps. It is currently scheduled for May 30th. So we'll get there. And if you have additional questions, don't hesitate to submit them in the chat here. That should stay open, I believe. And if not, just feel free to email one of us and we'll get back to you. Awesome. Thanks so much, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.